Imagine it was the year 2000. Millions of people from all over the world came to Germany at that time, for example, to the Millennium World Exhibition in Hanover, or to unique mega events such as the Love Parade in Berlin, one of the largest public parties since Woodstock in the USA. And while the USA had just elected George Bush into office and the population there was very divided, there was a real spirit of optimism in Germany. The government under Schröder was relatively successful in the first few years and even caused unemployment to fall. Above all, however, the German economy experienced a huge boom. While today the largest companies in the world are based in Silicon Valley in the USA, back in 2001, of the most popular mobile phones in the world came from Germany, namely the Siemens C35. Whether technology, medicine, or other industries, Germany was at the top of the world at that time in almost every area. Above all, however, there was one area in which no one could beat Germany, and that was car production. BMW, Mercedes, and especially Volkswagen were sold worldwide. In 2005, Germany even overtook the USA to become the world's export champion. By 2015, Volkswagen had increased its value fivefold. At the time, Volkswagen actually seemed completely unstoppable. But let's get back to the present. Volkswagen is planning to cut tens of thousands of jobs and is threatening significant salary cuts. The car industry is suffering particularly badly right now, which will be clearly felt at Volkswagen in 2024. Everything looks very different now, and one can only ask oneself, what the hell happened to Germany's car industry, and how could Volkswagen in particular crash like that? In fact, you really have to talk about a kind of crash at Volkswagen, because the company is currently experiencing the biggest crisis since its inception, and it is no small problem that the company has to solve. Germany's largest company is probably at the beginning of the end. But what does that actually mean in concrete terms? Just to look at Volkswagen's share price reveals that the company has been having problems for several years. As we have already said, Volkswagen was in an extremely successful phase in the 2000s. Until 2015, things were actually only going steeply uphill for the group. Even after the emissions scandal, Volkswagen was able to position itself successfully again, and in 2021, the group even made record profits. But since then, things have only gone downhill for Volkswagen. Literally. Not only has the share price fallen continuously since then, but profits have also plummeted by an incredible 63%, and that in just 1 year. The financial magazine Bloomberg even says that you should no longer buy Volkswagen shares because the group may no longer have much of a future. Even the German foreign minister recently asked whether Germany's car industry will even be able to keep up globally in the future. But what is the cause of Volkswagen's incredibly poor performance? And how did Germany's largest company get into such a situation in the first place? Volkswagen is not just a company with a long history of clever developments and inventions. Volkswagen also has a long history of managers who made absolutely catastrophic decisions. The same pattern is evident again and again. Many Volkswagen bosses were afraid of change and thus damaged the company. It all began in the 1970s. The Volkswagen boss at the time, Tony Schmucker, wanted Volkswagen to be at the top of the American car market, the largest and most lucrative in the world. If Volkswagen prevailed here, the German car company would be the most successful on the planet. Japanese car companies began to develop cars specifically for the USA that met the needs of Americans precisely. The cars were large, comfortable, and fuel efficient. Tony Schmucker even tried to outdo the Japanese and wanted to make Volkswagen the largest car brand in America. But he did not dare to really change Volkswagen's cars. Schmucker rejected designs for large Volkswagen SUVs or pickups and remained conservative. So instead of developing his own cars for the US market, Tony Schmucker simply had the normal Volkswagen Golf built in huge quantities in the USA and sold there. However, since the Golf consumed too much fuel to meet the strict American emissions regulations, Schmucker simply had a less powerful engine installed. Unsurprisingly, the car was not well received in America. Hardly anyone bought it. The Americans did not like the weak engine and the small size of the car at all. Schmucker's mistake had serious consequences for Volkswagen, because while Toyota and other Japanese brands took over the world's most important car market, Volkswagen gradually lost its role there. To this day, this has not really changed, and Volkswagen only has a market share of around 2% in America. Now we come to the next big mistake that Volkswagen is still suffering from today, and which was again made out of fear of change. Let us go back to 2007 and to the Volkswagen manager at the time, Winterkorn. In that year, Tesla had already developed the Roadster, a car that ran only on electricity and could travel over 350 kilometers. In China, too, purely electric cars were already being developed thanks to government funding that could be used quite normally in everyday life. At that time, however, Martin Winterkorn did not see the electric car as the future, but diesel. He was so enthusiastic about the diesel engine that he prevented Volkswagen from investing a lot of money in the development of electric motors. When Tesla finally brought out the Model S a few years later, one of the first electric cars for the mass market, Volkswagen under Winterkorn did not even have a development plan for its own purely electric car. In fact, Winterkorn was shocked by the progressiveness of Tesla's cars and had 3 Tesla Model S cars specially ordered so that he could then take them apart piece by piece with Volkswagen engineers. They noticed how different and modern Tesla's cars already were. It took another 6 years before Volkswagen finally brought its own completely electric vehicle onto the market, namely the ID.3. But this was inferior to Tesla in many ways right from the start. Herbert Diess finally made the last fatal mistake. Herbert Diess was still the head of Volkswagen until 2 years ago, and his bad decisions ultimately brought the company exactly where it is today, because his mistake also had to do with not changing enough. Herbert Diess was actually supposed to make Volkswagen young and dynamic again. He was supposed to make Volkswagen the most innovative brand again, and not companies like Tesla. The Volkswagen ID models that were developed under Herbert Diess were supposed to be more modern and attractive than Tesla cars, except that they were from Volkswagen. But that didn't work at all. While Tesla's focus was primarily on good software, which offers all kinds of features such as autopilot, track mode, or various gimmicks, Volkswagen hardly changed its software for its new electric models. Instead of an iPad on wheels, Volkswagen's infotainment systems seemed like they came from a completely different time. The build quality of Volkswagen's electric cars was so poor that some car testers even described the vehicles as unfinished. The design was also often criticized. Volkswagen still couldn't really keep up, and that is probably the group's biggest problem at the moment. Volkswagen's largest market worldwide is no longer the German or European one. Volkswagen also lost the American market a long time ago. The company actually lives mainly from the Chinese car market. But this is where Volkswagen's biggest crisis is now becoming apparent. All the mistakes of the last few decades that we showed you earlier are now causing Volkswagen to crash in its largest sales market. While electric cars have not yet fully become mainstream in Germany, in China every second car bought is already electric. Since Volkswagen missed this trend, Chinese manufacturers took advantage of this gap and simply built their own electric cars. These vehicles were so heavily supported by the state that Volkswagen now cost much more than an electric car from a Chinese company. The problem is, Volkswagen are not only too expensive for many Chinese, they are also too bad for them. In fact, not only has China managed to build millions of electric cars, the electric cars made by Chinese companies are also incredibly advanced. The BYD Seal, for example, not only has the design of a Tesla and a range of 700 kilometers, it also has something that Volkswagen still lacks to this day, namely state-of-the-art software and a futuristic interior. The same goes for cars like the Xiaomi SU7 or the Hongqi EHS9. These seem like a science fiction concept compared to Volkswagen's electric cars in China. Yet they are often even cheaper than Volkswagen's cars. Vehicles that look like a Porsche or Rolls-Royce are not uncommon in China for under 30,000 euros. Many Chinese now describe Volkswagen as an outdated brand that their grandparents drove at some point. So we see that Volkswagen's decades-long strategy of caution and less change is actually causing the company to lose its biggest market. Volkswagen sales in China are already falling sharply, while new Chinese companies are constantly being created that are then preferred by customers. The government is also actively helping and supporting Chinese car companies with major discounts. In addition, Volkswagen can hardly compete in car production because the Chinese companies have highly automated factories that enable extremely cheap production. But what will happen to Germany's largest company now? Things are looking very bleak indeed. Volkswagen hardly plays a role in the USA. In China too, it is now declining. And if Chinese cars one day come to Germany in large numbers at cheap prices, German cars in general could become a relic of another era, just like German wooden toys or German cell phones. Or what do you think? Do you think that Volkswagen and Germany's car industry will be in a much better position in the future? Let us know in the comments. Well, folks, and with that, we end our video today. Write us your thoughts on this in the comments and let us know about which topics we should make a video about. Otherwise, subscribe to our channel and see you next time here at Wikipedia Plus. Thank you all for watching to the end. I hope you enjoyed our content. A big hug, and until then, bye.